Hello. Time to talk about fish again. Okay, so we are up to Finding Dory, which came out in 2016. And this is, of course, the sequel to Finding Nemo. I do like that I mean, okay, admittedly, I was not on the lookout for like the Finding Dory story for okay, Dory had a family, doesn't know where they are. Okay. Um, And then, of course, this movie made me care about the fact that Dory had a family and she had no idea where they were and she couldn't remember them. And, it's her parents were waiting for her, of course. So obviously, we still get the same basic cast. The movie does start out with a flashback where we start out with Dory as a very, very young little blue tang that is more eyeballs than anything else, and she's adorable. Um, she's quite adorable. And we see her with her parents. They're, helping her, learn the line of, "Hi, my name is Dory, and I have short-term memory loss." So cute. So cute. Um, oh, God, she's so cute. Um, and, so we see her practicing with her parents. We see her parents trying to help her get to the point where she can, go and have go and play with the other fish and everything like that. She seems to be the only one that has this issue. I will say this now. In the development of the movie, there were thoughts about having her parents having, memory loss too. And they ditched that idea because it's one thing for Dory to have the memory loss. It's another thing for her parents to have the memory loss and even forget who they're married to or who their child is or that they have a child. That's a little bit harder to swallow. All of them having that is bad. Dory just having that is okay. That's a little bit more of a thing that we can swallow here. And what we end up seeing is, of course, Dory and her parents are, of course, her parents are trying to help her, get to the point where she can go and have fun with the other fish and everything. And what is revealed is that somehow it, cuts away to a little bit later, and Dory is now lost from her parents. She has no idea where they are. She's out in this like dark kelp forest and she's found by these other fish that do honestly try to help her, but she wanders off and she continuously just keeps wandering again and again and again to finding where her parents are, or trying to figure out where her parents went. And at some point she even forgets like what it is that she's looking for. She knows she's looking for something, but she can't figure out what. And it's, it's this little tiny little baby little blue tang lost in the giant ocean and has no idea where her parents are. And she just travels and travels and travels, talking to all these different kinds of fish, telling her story again and again. And then, of course, we see the moment where she meets up with Marlin. And, that's where it basically drops into where, Finding Nemo itself takes place. Perfectly fine here. And then we cut to a year later where we see that, Dory now lives in this little cave nest thing right next to Marlin's anemone where him and Nemo live. And Dory has this dream, kind of remembering bits, I think maybe smidges about her parents, but also more about like their journey and everything that they took a year ago. By the way, in real life, if this was like fish a year later in real life, Nemo would at the very least be full grown. Don't know if Marlin and Dory would still be alive. I do not know the longevity of clownfish or regal blue tangs. I do not know their longevity, but I'm pretty sure by now at least Nemo would be full grown. As the actor that plays Marlin loves to point out, clownfish, all of them are born male, and the most dominant one in the school becomes female. And then when that fish dies, when that female dies, the second most dominant male fish will then, or the most dominant male fish will then transition into being a female, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, then again, I don't blame Pixar for not wanting to put that into a kids movie at that point in time and having that be like a big part of the kids movie. Note, I'm recording this the day after I saw Lightyear in theaters. At some point, I will do a review of Lightyear. I don't know if that's going to be until after it goes to like streaming and I'm able to watch it again, just to make sure that I have everything fresh in my head. But I will end up doing Lightyear at some point. Sure thing. I really liked it, and I'll go more into that when I do talk about Lightyear. But we see, Dory and Marlin and Nemo are all, of course, they're happy together and everything. And Dory, of course, just keeps swimming into the anemone and keeps getting, shocked by the anemone. And Marlin keeps trying to stop her. And of course, we see that, they go off to school and, it's Mr. Ray's class and there's going to be this field trip. And they're going to go watch the stingray migration. And so it's just fun, thing that they're doing there. And what ends up happening is, while they're having this time, while they're having this field trip, one of the kids asks Dory, well, don't you know where your parents are? And she's like, I don't remember where they are. I wonder where they are. And she ends up we get this moment where Dory has like this big flashback moment because she hears the word undertow, which is, it's part of an undertow current that happens in the ocean or in large bodies of water, where there's like just different, water going in different directions, or a large amount of like the stingrays coming through, when their migration makes an undertow happen in the current. And Dory ends up getting swept into that. And then, they find her and they make sure she's okay, but she remembers where her parents are, where she used to live. She used to live in the Jewel of Morro Bay, California. And Nemo helps her like keep remembering that phrase. And of course she can, she's like looking at Marlin and she's like, I remember my parents. I remember them. I need to find my parents. I need to go to California and find my parents. And Marlin's like, just stop. And like, Marlin, okay. I don't blame Dory for wanting to go and find her parents. I also do not blame Marlin in the slightest for being like, we already did our giant ocean journey to go find Nemo. We already did this. Can't we just, every time we come to this freaking drop-off, somebody wants to leave. Can't we just come here and look at the view? I love that joke that Marlin makes. But like Nemo and Dory kind of a little bit of guilt trip Marlin into doing this. And it's just like, okay, I don't know how to get us to California, but I know a guy. Cue Crush, of course, from the first movie, the sea turtle, and the East Australian current that they use to travel. And we see Crush and his kid again, and everything. Crush just Squirt Crush Jr. We see them go through, and we see all of the turtles and everything, which is just kind of nice again. I hear dog. One moment. Come on. Up. We got back from a walk a little while ago, so he's like, okay, I get walk now. I go to lay down on bed. Aren't you a cute little baby? Yes, you are. And what ends up happening is, they get dropped off at, by, Morro Bay, California, by California, because of course the sea turtles know where everything is in the ocean, where all the different port cities are. They get dropped off there, and we see, Dory's like very frantically trying to find her parents. And while they're going around, she remembers that her names are Jenny and Charlie. So she's just like, have you seen my parents? Their names are Jenny and Charlie. And, they're going through this area, and we see all this, not surprisingly, we see all of this trash and litter and debris everywhere in this part of the ocean. It disgusts me, trust me. It's all this. And and Dory ends up getting like this, the pop bottle, Coke bottle, pop can rings around her at one point. And, unfortunately at one point in time, they get chased by this giant squid, which really looks kind of cool. We get this, giant squid, and, it tries to chase Marlin and Dory and Nemo and tries to eat them, and they have, they get away from him. And Nemo kind of gets hurt a little bit. And Marlin ends up saying something. He tells Dory, just go over there and do what you do best, which is forget things, which is the only thing you're good at. And he's not doing it to be mean. He's saying it in a moment of kind of panic, concern over Nemo, not thinking everything through, that just comes out of his mouth. And Dory, goes off and she like swims up to the surface to see if she can, find out what's going on. And she hears this voice, and it's the voice of Sigourney Weaver, which I'm like, okay, sure, yeah, we'll bring that in here. And it's the voice of Sigourney Weaver telling her that she's reached, the Marine Life Institute. And, okay, side note, I have been to California. I think I mentioned this before, and I've been to Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is possibly what this place is based on. I'm not sure. But I've been to Monterey Bay Aquarium. It's this huge aquarium directly on the coast. It was beautiful. Not that I don't love the aquarium that we have in Omaha at the Henry Dory Zoo, but this was so much bigger and it was so beautiful. And like you could see sea lions in the water, and like it was so fun. We also saw elephant seals on the beach at one point when we were driving up the coast, and that was kind of fun. Got out of our car and just saw those like huge expanse of elephant seals all up and down the beach, where so many people stopped there looking at them like, look at the elephant seals. Don't make them angry. Yeah, no, don't make the elephant seals angry. They don't typically mess with humans, but you make them angry or you find the wrong one, and yeah, most any animal will attack you. Right? And he said, I don't attack people, I sniff them. And then I have them pet me as penance for not, doing something. But so I've been to a place that's very similar to this. And a lot of different aquariums and zoos, of course, work with lots of other zoos and aquariums and wildlife centers and everything like that in order to help with, rehabilitating animals, rescuing them and rehabilitating, and then in certain cases, if the animals can be released, releasing the animals back into the wild. Preferably, they want to get some of the animals released back into the wild. And Sigourney Weaver is kind of narrating, and she explains that, she's supposed to be like this, welcoming people to the Marine Life Institute, of course. And she, it's a voiceover, so it's not actually Sigourney Weaver, like physically there in person talking, of course, but it's, she's like a sponsor of the aquarium or something like that is what they're doing in it. And what ends up happening is, Dory ends up getting grabbed by some of the people that work at the aquarium, and because, they take her off of they take the pop thing off of her and put her into a cooler, so that way she, cooler in water so she doesn't, drown, or I guess air drown, whatever the opposite of a fish drowning is. Not that, fish can drown because sharks can drown because certain sharks have to continuously swim to circulate water through their gills or they basically suffocate. So I know some sharks don't have to do that, but I know a good amount of them do. I'm assuming some fish are the same way as well. And what ends up happening is, Marlin and Nemo see her get taken, and I was like, dang it. And like Nemo's like, you're the one that said she should just go off and forget like she always does. And Marlin's like, I didn't mean it. And we get this moment where they end up talking to these two giant sea lions. Fluke and Rubber, I think are their names. And, the sea lions are funny in and of themselves, and like they explain that, this place is the Jewel of Morro Bay, California. This is, the Marine Life Institute. It's a fish hospital. Your friend's going to be fine. She's going to go in. They're going to take a look at her. They're going to put her in quarantine, and then give her a little bit, and she'll be let out. They will turn her to the wild because like both of those sea lions had been in the Marine Life Institute for one thing. I was like, one of them had like anemia, and the other one had like something with his nose was like a problem or something like that. So it's just, it's like they help treat the animals. And what ends up happening is, of course, Marlin and Nemo are like, well, we need to find a way to get in there because we need to help our friend because she's trying to find her parents. And like, well, then this must be where Dory came from. And Dory, of course, is taken into the quarantine area inside of the Marine Life Institute, where she is like tagged. And, the little animal tags that they stick on animals, she's tagged with that. And then she ends up meeting this octopus, very ill-tempered, very curmudgeon-y, grumpy octopus, septopus, because he only has 7 legs, which they state in the movie. And the reason Hank, who's the octopus, has 7 legs is because this octopus is what nearly broke Pixar. this octopus, in regards to how he moves, how he animates, how he is so flexible and moving and everything like that, nearly broke Pixar with just all of that. And there's a whole bonus feature on the disc about that, and I find that hilarious. That like this curmudgeon animal that is like one of this big plot parts of this movie nearly broke the studio in regards to, not like money broke it, but like broke it in regards to how can we make controls for this thing that make it work? Because it's not like hinges and joints and like, so many controls. He has like 4,000 controls. When like a regular character has like, I think less than 200 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but like he has a lot of controls in him. And of course, and then he also, he shapeshifts, he, color shifts. And like they studied real octopuses for this, and I've seen octopuses in real life. They are cool, and to a degree, they can also be like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to mess with that thing. But Kraken comes to mind. That's kind of more a giant squid than anything else. But what ends up happening is, Dory ends up convincing Hank that, if you help me find my parents, help me, find, where my parents are in here, because she kind of like gets the explanation from Hank that, this is the Jewel of Morro Bay, California. If your parents are, this is where your parents would be, type of a thing. Pet the puppy. And what ends up happening is, he scoops her up into like a coffee pot thing, and like he starts carrying her around the building. And there's the running gag in the background of like, the octopus got out again. Oh, God dang it. And like people have to keep trying to find Hank, which is actually a thing that happens at aquariums, because like octopuses, because they're so smart, and it's like each leg has its own brain, which this thing does not seem like it should be on this planet with us the way that an octopus is, but they're so freaking cool. And octopuses have been known to like escape from their enclosures in aquariums. I do not know if we actually have any specific octopuses at the aquarium here in Omaha at the Henry Darley Zoo at the Scott Aquarium, but I would not be surprised if we had. If we do, and if it's escaped at some point in time, that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, because octopuses are extremely smart creatures, and to a degree, sometimes they act like liquid. They act like a cat that you put in a bowl, and the cat acts like liquid. This thing acts more like liquid. And what ends up happening is Hank just wants to get Dory's tag so that way he can go to Cleveland and just be on his own and not have to worry about anything for the rest of his life. And in exchange for helping Dory, he agrees. He's like, fine, I help you, you give me your tag. We're good. And so we get this time for like, Hank starts taking Dory all over the aquarium. The dog sneezed. And, Hank starts, trying to help Dory figure out where her parents are, where she's supposed to be. And what ends up happening is Dory just keeps remembering all these like random things about the aquarium, like, things about echolocation, or things about, different things along those lines. Like, destiny, I need to follow my destiny. It's my destiny to find my parents. And she ends up landing in a food bucket filled with dead fish that are for a whale shark. Hi, are you trying to be cute? Should I put the camera on you so you can be cute on camera? Are you trying to be cute? Pet the puppy. Okay. Back up here. And what ends up happening is Dory ends up getting tossed into the enclosure of a whale shark, which is the largest shark in the world. It is biologically a shark, but it's called a whale shark because it's so big, but it also is a shark that filter feeds. So it has teeth, but they don't use their teeth. They're more ornamental than anything. And yeah, the dog left. He's going to go lay on my mom's bed. And what ends up happening is Dory ends up like talking to the whale shark, and it's revealed that this whale shark is called Destiny, and that she has been at this aquarium for a very long time, and that she knew Dory when Dory was a little kid, and when Dory was like a little guppy, and like they used to be pipe pals. Destiny is the one that taught Dory like how to speak whale. I can't speak whale. Taught Dory how to do that, and like they used to talk through the pipes in the aquarium. because that's how aquarium pipes work, apparently. And they were pipe pals instead of pen pals. And we're also introduced to this other, this beluga whale whose name is Bailey. And he is, he believes that his echolocation cannot work, but he, they end up at some point, like, Destiny keeps teasing him, and like Destiny is like a nearsighted whale shark, so she can't see too much in front of her, which I don't know if that's actually something they just came up with for the movie. I would assume that a lot of different animals have the ability to be like nearsighted and farsighted the same way that humans can be. So I don't know if like Destiny, if like all whale sharks are farsighted or nearsighted, because like their eyes are like really far apart on their heads. So I don't know exactly how that will work. That is not a question that I can answer at the moment. But Destiny is adorable. I should have brought my stuffed whale shark in here. Oh well, it's in my room. And what ends up happening is Dory is like being taken all over the aquarium by Hank, and like he keeps getting angry at her about like wandering off and everything like that, and like they end up stealing a stroller so that way they can wheel around the aquarium and everything. And while this is going on out in the bay, Marlin and Nemo, in an attempt to try to get to Dory, the two sea lions end up saying, "Well, we know how to get you in there. It's okay." And like they call in this bird called Becky. I was trying to remember if they actually say what type of bird. Oh, she's a black loon. I don't know that much about black loons, but she's a black loon, and she comes in and she has like this bucket that they use to carry Marlin and Nemo into over into the aquarium area, into the Marine Life Institute exhibits, to help them get to quarantine. And Becky is not the sharpest bird, but she's a very sweet type of a bird, and you have to kind of like imprint on her, and like the sea lions help Marlin with how to do that. And Marlin and Nemo, at one point, they kind of end up getting separated from Becky for various reasons. She puts the bucket down, and then the bucket ends up getting like flipped somewhere else, and Marlin and Nemo end up kind of trapped in like this little tiny aquarium by like a gift shop. And during this whole time frame, Dory's off doing her own thing, and what ends up happening is Dory or Marlin and Nemo end up having like this conversation while they're sitting in the aquarium that is just like, you told, it's Nemo kind of like berating his father. It's like, you told Dory that the best thing she does is forget. That's what she's good at. And then like you like don't trust Becky even though she was helping us, and like all this other stuff that's going on. And it's like, we need to figure out how to get out of this mess. We need to get back into, the bucket, or get back into like something that'll help us get to find where Dory is. And what ends up happening is they end up coming up with the off the cuff plan of hopping across this, because there's like this squirt fountain type thing in the ground, and like they hop across on like the little squirt thing, the water spouts when they pop up, like they hop across and they land into this little tide pool exhibit, where they end up getting very much annoyed by this clam. And during this time frame, Dory ends up, between Dory and Hank, they end up, getting, finding their way into the deep sea exhibit. But first they have to go through the touch pool. And I will admit, I like the touch pools at the museums, or at the aquariums. I like them. If I do ever touch anything in the tide pools or anything like that they have at the aquarium, that's for like, the touch ponds and everything, it's like they have people there watching the kids to make sure that they're not going to hurt themselves or hurt the animals, to be very gentle on the animals. You don't want to hurt them. Side note in a story, in Omaha, as I've stated, we have the Henry Dorley Zoo. One of the exhibits that they have there is this stingray kind of tide pool that have all these different stingrays in it. And they're not very big stingrays. They're maybe about that wide. but like, they like have this, giant pool. It's probably about twice the size of this room. And it's, it's like an in-ground pool type of thing, and there's like a barrier around, wall around it that you can sit on, and you can like, because like the stingrays swim through, and like you can pet the stingrays. And I swear to God, these things want to be petted, because they will like literally like swim up by the side of the thing, and like you can like, they will like let you pet them, and like you're supposed to pet them. That's the point of this exhibit. It lets you touch and feel the wildlife, and it's really fun. I think we spent at least like half an hour in there, like the last two times that we were out there, like 20 to 30 minutes in there. Because it's like in an enclosed area, so it's much cooler than it is outside, particularly in the summer. And like, the stingrays are just like swimming around, and like, you can like pet them and everything like that. And it's really nice in there. That's just fun. But like, other times, of course, they've had, things where it's like, you can gently pet the starfish, or they have like horseshoe crabs you can pet. Or other little animals here and there, little marine life that you're supposed to pet. And in this movie, they make the touch pond seem like a horror show, which in regards to the way that they do show it in that, yes. But typically the aquariums that I've been to, if they have one of these touch ponds, they have at least like 2 or 3 different people there, like guarding the kids, making sure that the kids don't hurt the animals and everything like that, or be explicitly rough with the animals and that type of stuff. And what ends up happening is, they go through this horror show of like getting poked and prodded and everything like that. And then they do end up getting to the open ocean exhibit, which is where Dory figures out that she's from, because during this whole time frame, Dory keeps having all these different flashbacks to when she's a kid. Her memories keep coming back. And we see her interacting with her parents multiple times, with them helping her figure out different kind of coping mechanisms for if she forgets where she is or if she gets lost. They have these like trails of shells that like lead back to their house, because Dory really likes shells, and, purple shells, and like, all these different clues, and, that her parents have kind of told her that help her find her way to the open ocean exhibit. And what ends up happening is, Dory ends up, what ends up happening is, via all these flashbacks, that helps Dory find her way to the open ocean exhibit, with Hank helping her. And what ends up happening is, they get to the open ocean exhibit, and like Hank and her, say goodbye. She gives him his tag, and she said about, she explains it, I guess, or figures out, I guess, the reason that I know a lot of this information, or that I know how to read, is because I grew up here. I know that stuff because I learned it here. Like we see the sign about like an octopus has like 3 hearts, and like Dory somehow knew that and Hank didn't, and then like he sees that in the sign. I guess that's true. And he drops her into the open ocean exhibit and takes her tag, and he heads back off to, find his way back to quarantine, so that way he can be sent off to Cleveland. And Dory finds her way to the little coral house thing where her and her parents lived. And she gets there, and she sees the shells all over the ground, and she like follows them back, and she ends up, she sees that they're not there anymore, and her parents are gone, and like she ends up talking, and it's like, I'm assuming it's like this little couple of like crabs that are there, and like they explain, oh well, all of the blue tangs are gone, they're going to be shipped, they're in quarantine right now, they're going to be shipped to Cleveland. And it's just like roundabout way to get back to where you started, of course. And Dory, in this moment, she ends up having this flashback where she remembers one night where she was like, sleeping, and then she heard her mom and dad, talking, and her mom was very sad and crying about the fact that she was so worried about whether or not Dory was going to be able to actually, kind of survive on her own. And Dory ends up, little baby Dory like wanders off, because she's going to go find like pretty shells to give to her mom to make her feel happy. And she ends up getting sucked into the undercurrent, and getting swept into the pipes. And then eventually that's how she ended up getting dropped out into the ocean. And, Dory ends up, Dory the two crabs are like, okay, so the way that you get to quarantine is you go through those pipes, you take two lefts and a right, and you're there. And Dory, of course, kind of starts, she's like, okay, I can do this. And she's like very worried, and she's like slowly making her way. And she's like, okay, left, left, right. Oh, no, now I'm confused and everything. At some point, she ends up like calling out for help in the pipes. And of course, Destiny hears her in her exhibit. And at this point in time, Bailey or between Destiny and Dory, like probing, trying to convince Bailey to use his, finally use his echolocation, he is able to use it. And he uses it to help, like, locate where Dory is in the pipes. And then, like, Destiny and Bailey are, like, helping her, helping Dory, like, make her way through the pipes back to quarantine. And they end up coming, Bailey sees something huge in the sonar, and he thinks it's going to eat Dory. And then it ends up being Marlin and Nemo. And I was just like, Dory's okay. She's fine. Like, they're so happy to see her. And, they start making their way to, quarantine. And, like, Dory or Marlin and Nemo was like, there was this clam, and he wouldn't stop talking. And we just slowly backed away, and then we got sucked into the pipes, and then now we're here. And what ends up happening is, they make their way to quarantine where they meet Hank again, and Hank, like, helped them get into, like, the tank where all of the blue tang are that are going to be sent off to Cleveland. And, like, the blue tang, like, recognize Dory, and they're like, oh, you're Jenny and Charlie's daughter. Well, you see, after you left, they went to quarantine to try to find you, and they never came back. And so it's just like Dory is kind of having this like panic attack moment, rightfully so in the panic attack moment. She's having this panic attack moment where she's just like, my parents are dead, is what she's thinking. And like Hank like scoops her up out of the tank, doesn't have, Marlin and Nemo in there with her, and he ends up, he's not being like super careless about this, but he thought he gave her enough time. And then of course, because like the stuff's about to get loaded onto the truck to go to Cleveland. And what ends up happening is Dory gets, sent down the pipes and back into the ocean. And Dory is just, like, still kind of having her bit of a panic attack because, like, Marlin and Nemo are not with her. They're trapped on the truck going out, that's going to go out at first light to head off to Cleveland with the rest of the blue tang, with the rest of the royal blue tangs. I said Wu-Tang Clan there for a second. I'm like, this is a big difference than the Wu-Tang Clan. Nothing against the Wu-Tang Clan. Just I don't think they have anything to do with the blue tang fish, as far as I'm aware. But what ends up happening is, so Dory got, of course, flushed back into the ocean, or sent back into the ocean, and Dory ends up, she ends up like looking around, and she's like kind of lost and everything. That's very, it's very dark in the depths of where she is. And, she's back in the kelp forest, and she like slowly, she's like, okay. Like she's using like focusing on instincts, but also just different coping mechanisms that she's used over the years. And she's like, okay, being in the kelp forest is better than being out in the open because there's shelter. And she goes in there, and then she starts she's like, sees shells, and it's like, I like shells, they're pretty. And she starts following this trail of shells, and she finds her way to this little kind of hole in the wall place. And it's like got these rows and rows of shells just coming out from it in all directions. And she like turns around, and she sees these two other blue tang. And they, she recognizes them, and they just like, hi, I'm Dory. And like, they just like her parents just like rush toward her, and like, as close to a hug as a fish can do. They like hug her and everything. And they're just like so happy to see her. And they're just like, you got your way back to us. You didn't fail. You came back. You remembered us. You found your way back to us. That is the important thing. And you survived. And she's like, yes, and now I need to go and get Marlin and Nemo. I need to save them. And, she's like, I have to find them because they're part of my family too. and I need them because I love them. And, so they're like, okay, well, we'll help you, of course. And like they swim to the surface, and like Dory kind of calls out for like, for Destiny, and like Destiny and Bailey end up basically Destiny and Bailey end up, they jump out of their tide pool areas. They're areas that are right next to the ocean, which just seems like a very bad setup to have like the things for the fish right next to the ocean, and like they jump out, and like because it's one of the things with Destiny is that because she's nearsighted, she keeps running into the walls, and it's like Bailey originally came from the ocean, and he tells her there are no walls in the ocean, Destiny. She's like, let me head, like, and they jump out of their exhibits and into the ocean. And like they imagine being the people on staff that day. You saw that too, right? Yeah. Okay, please tell me the security camera got it too. We're gonna go make sure so they know that we didn't do it, or else we have to pay for the whale shark that just escaped, and the beluga whale that escaped. And they jump out. And as being those aquarium handlers on that day would not be fun. And what ends up happening is, Destiny and Bailey and Dory and her parents, Jenny and Charlie, are like, they like see the truck, and they're like, okay, we got to follow the truck. And like, Hank is in the truck with, dog bark. Hank is in the truck with Marlin and Nemo and the rest of all the fish and everything that are in the truck that are on their way to Cleveland. And what ends up happening, I apologize if you hear the dog in the background. And what ends up happening is, Hank is kind of like trying to open the doors to help them get out. And what ends up happening is, I love how they do this. Dory sees a bunch of these otters, these adorable otters, and they're so cute because otters are always so cute. I love otters. I don't have any stuffed otters. I need a stuffed otter. And what happens is, Dory ends up having the otters go up onto the interstate, which does not sound safe. And, they stop traffic, and, she had Bailey or Destiny flip her up there with her tail. And so like, Dory is now up there as well, and they go over to the tank. The truck stops, and they run around to the truck, and like they open the back of the truck, and they get inside, and in an attempt to try to help them escape, what ends up happening is Marlin actually calls on Becky, and she shows up, ends up scooping up him and Nemo, and then they get dropped into the ocean, so they're not where they need to be, but Dory is now trapped on the truck again, still with Hank. And what ends up happening is, I love how they do this, because what ends up happening is, Hank, it's like, we need another way out. There is no other way out. How about we try and Dory goes like, there's always another way out. What about that way? Points at the emergency exit. Hank, oh my God, there is another way out of here. And then he goes to the emergency exit of the top of the truck, and he lands on the front of the truck to like make all the drivers stop again, and then like he gets inside of the truck when the two drivers jump out of the truck, and he locks them out. And then I love this moment where we have it that Dory is like sitting in like a cup of water or something like that on the dashboard, and then Hank is like driving the truck. Driving this truck. Which is not really going to happen. It's like, I don't think an octopus, as smart as an octopus is, I don't know exactly if they would be able to drive a truck, but this is hilarious and I don't care. And, they're driving, he's driving the truck, and it's like going the wrong way, like all over the place. And it's just this fun little driving chase sequence that is just adorable. And during this time frame, Marlin and Nemo got dropped in the ocean where they see Jenny and Charlie. It's like, Jenny, Charlie, Marlin, Nemo, hi, thank you for taking care of Dory, type of thing. And it's just like, Bailey and like Destiny are there. It's like, we gotta fix what's going on upstairs. We gotta save Dory and everything. That was the whole point of this movie. And what ends up happening is, via funny things that happen, the truck filled with fish and an octopus. I don't know if octopuses qualify as fish. They're invertebrates, I believe. Yeah, they're invertebrates because they don't have spines or bones. Yeah, no bones. And it jumped, the truck crashes over like part of the wall or whatever, part of the interstate, flying into the ocean. everything, all the tanks come flying out of the truck. All the fish come falling out of the truck into the ocean. And Hank is like flying through the air, and like so is Dory, and like he kind of catches Dory so she doesn't get hurt. And like all the other blue tanks and all the other fish on the truck are just like falling into the ocean. And what ends up happening is we have this moment where it's like Sigourney Weaver's, narrating over this moment that it's just like, and at the Marine Life Institute, it is our job to, we have our motto of, rescue, rehabilitate, and release. And they all get dropped back into the ocean. And it's just funny. And, rescue, rehabilitate, and release. And we cut to, I don't know, a little while later, not too much longer later, but like they're all back at the reef. How they all got back to the reef, I don't know, but we see Dory there, we see her parents there, and Marlin and Nemo, and Hank, and we see Bailey and Destiny are there, and like they're all happy and everything. And, Hank is kind of like the substitute teacher for Mr. Ray while he's off, migrating, and then he'll come back. So it's like we're dealing with all the little fish and everything, and like everybody's just like very happy. And what ends up happening is, Dory ends up swimming off, and she goes to the drop off, and Marlin like kind of follows her because he's worried, and he's just like, and like she gets there and she's like, I just thought I'd come here and look at the view. It's very unforgettable. And Marlin's like, yeah, it is. And that's kind of where the movie ends. Part of the credits that they have is like Hank, like it's basically like a Where's Waldo, but it's Hank, and he's like in different pictures, and you have to like find him before he like pops up and like reveals where he is and everything. And then at the very end of the movie, the end credit scene, we see that the tank gang from the original movie have made somehow survived in bags for a year, made their way all the way to California from Australia without being eaten, or their bags popping, or them dying, or suffocating, or starving, or being scooped up by someone else. They end up in there, and they get grabbed by the Marine Life Institute workers. And they're going to be taken in, they're hopefully going to be fine, and then either they'll end up being in a very big aquarium exhibit, or they'll end up getting dropped back into the ocean. One of the two. And so we get that. And that's the end of that. And as much as I do really like, Dory and Nemo and Marlin and everything, I don't particularly need any other additions to the Finding Nemo, Finding Dory franchise. I don't really need any more of that. I'm good. I mean, like a cartoon short would be fine. Like if it was a Disney, Pixar shorts, that's one thing. But other than that, I don't really need anything else from them. In regards to, of course, cast, we of course have Ellen DeGeneres as Dory. We have Albert Brooks, of course, as Marlin. We have Hayden Rollins as Nemo, replacing Alexander Gould. And I believe Alexander Gould does play something in the background somewhere. Like he plays some other random person in the background, so that way he is in the movie. We have Ed O'Neill, of course, as Hank. We have Caitlin Olsen as Destiny. We have Ty Burrell as Bailey. We have Diane Keaton as Jenny, as Dory's mom. We have Eugene Levy as Charlie, as Dory's father. Idris Elba, amazing Idris Elba, is Fluke, who is one of the sea lions, and Dominic West is, and the other sea lion, Rudder, I think. He plays the other sea lion. We have Bob Peterson as Mr. Ray. We have Andrew Stanton as Crush / the Clam. We have Bill Hader as Stan, and I do not know who that's supposed to be off the top of my head. And of course, Sigourney Weaver narrating as herself. And then, of course, all the ones that were the tank gang came back and like reprised their roles for the tiny bit at the end of the movie. Of course, there's other miscellaneous ones in there as well, but those are the main ones. So that what we have. I do very much like Finding Dory and everything. The next video, or the next Pixar movie that I will be reviewing, is actually going to be Planes, Fire, and Rescue. So Planes 2, Fire, and Rescue, which both of the Planes movies did get theatrical releases. So that's why I am including them in here, and they are Pixar related. So that's why they're part of the Pixar setup and not the Disney setup. And then after that, I want to say the one that's after I do Planes 2, I want to say the next one is going to be Toy Story 4, possibly. Something like that. It's one of those ones. It's Toy Story 4, or it's Coco, or it's Incredibles 2. It's not Incredibles 2, I know that, but I think it's either Toy Story 4 or Coco, I think. But yeah. And at some point I will end up getting Lightyear reviewed. Again, that may wait until after it ends up going to streaming. I don't know, just so that way I can watch it again. But that's what I have for this. I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And if you haven't watched Finding Dory or Finding Nemo for a little while, go and watch them, because they're still kind of fun to watch, and just the environments they make for these movies are just so beautiful. In the ocean and even in the aquarium areas are so beautiful. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. And welcome to the Marine Life Institute, where we believe in rescue, rehabilitation, and release.